The sky so far, but I can't lose it.
Let's be innovative. Let's challenge a norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
Blocker is feeling the blues as the Lionheart IndyCar Series swings into the Music City. In his quest to win 4 championships in a row, an up-and-down start to the year has left him on the back foot. In stark contrast, Phil Krause has found his groove, and with 4 wins in 5 races, he is standing head and shoulders clear of the rest of the pack. However, it's a new challenge for everyone tonight as the Lionheart IndyCar Series makes its first visit to a track that will shred through the tires. This is Nashville, and this is the Next Level Racing Nashville 200. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV for coverage of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. The Lionheart IndyCar Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside myself in the commentary booth is the returning Justin Prince. And Justin, let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show. Last time out, it was a fantastic race. Again, we go to Silverstone. Lots of carnage at the start, and while the front of the field wasn't as action-packed as it was 12 months ago, the rest of the fight was so intriguing. The storyline heading out of that, though, as we grab a look at our Next Level Racing schedule, is the fact that Phil Krause, 4 wins in 5 races, his lowest finish, 2nd place at Long Beach on March 23rd.
The best way to put it is simple. He's out-blockering Adam Blocker. We know how dominant Blocker has been in the history of this series, especially the past couple years entering this season. Well, Phil Krause, he's taken away all the momentum and then some, especially with that run at Silverstone where he outright dominated. But tonight could be a different story. This is a very difficult circuit you have to keep in mind when it comes to this schedule. And it's the first concrete surface oval race the series has seen in a long time since they raced at Dover back in Season 5.
Some of the warm-up races in the build-up to today's action have seen the drivers actually blow through the tires, so it'll be very interesting to see which drivers have figured out the right in-car tools, the right way to get around this facility to make sure they keep those tires underneath them. Let's grab a look at our butt kicker driver standings. Phil Krause almost 100 points clear. We're only 5 races in. He is running away. Alexander Van der Sat sits in 2nd with Adam Blocker in 3rd, just 7 points back from his teammate and only 1 point clear of Jason Brophy. You look at this field, you see 4 rookies up there. The most noticeable of them to me is Caleb Bensi. What a start to the season he's really had. But you look at the team names as well. Powerslide Adrenaline and the private label Team Hype. Both teams have all 3 of their drivers, 6 in total, inside of the top 10. And therefore, it's no surprise when we look at our HyperX team standings, JP, those are the 2 teams that are running away at the front of the field. Although, the Powerslide Adrenaline team need to buck up and close the gap, because the longer you let the private label Team Hype machine pull away, the harder it is to reel them in.
Especially with how synchronized their strategies have been over the past couple seasons now. Powerslide Adrenaline has a lot of competitive drivers, though you have to keep in mind Powerslide Ignition. They've shown good speed in some of the races, but not all of them. I'm curious, though, of Ascari Autosport, because they've had a lot of okay performances this season, had an expectation level that was high with Barrett Rolfe amongst that grouping. They're in 5th and slowly building up more points after their very bad start.
Madworks Motorsports as well have had a good start to the campaign, 30 points clear of that 2nd Powerslide Ignition team, sitting 3rd in these team standings. Let's dial up these butt kicker rookie standings then, and well, Phil Krause, Alexander Van der Sat 1 and 2 in the driver standings, 1 and 2 in the rookie standings as well. We mentioned Bensi and Marquez 4th and 5th. Malechka's not been as consistent on the ovals as we think just yet. We'll see if that momentum that we saw from him in the Lionheart Speedway Series truly rolls on for 2022 as we get towards the midway marker of this season. 2 big shocks when I look at this though, JP. Alexis Newsom and Adriano Pinheiro. The debutant to Lionheart to kick off 2022, Pinheiro put it on pole in the first 2 races, suffered a bit in the races itself, but I'm a bit surprised the Brazilian is all the way down there in 8th.
Yeah, especially since he's shown some good speed. Remember, though, we haven't seen him in all the races towards the very front, and that's critical, of course, to score solid points with how difficult it can be to get through the pack. But keep in mind, it shouldn't be a surprise to see many of these drivers in the conversation. We talked about how quick some of the drivers were when they made part-time experiences and appearances, should say, last year And a lot of those drivers have carried over to this season for their first full-time campaigns. That momentum has really pulled on forward for some, such as Robert Malechka, Benzi in particular, to try and back up the speed they showcased across Lionheart competition last year.
Let's talk through your Gomez Sim Industry Series details. It's Season 10 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series in the 9th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. We've got the newest American open-wheel machine at our disposal, the Dallara IR18. All drivers share the same custom fix setup, but with the in-car tools, the front and rear anti-roll bars, as well as the weight jacker to really dial the performance of that car in. And they were given some pointers by the setup builder, Andrew Kinsella, as to how to wring out the maximum performance of this machine. Cash and prizes, we bumped up from just over $7,000 in 2021 to over $10,000 in 2022. It's a remarkable prize pool. Doesn't just include season-long prizes, but winners in our Triple Crown races will walk away with additional prizes as well. Our series champions, when all things are said and done in this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, will also walk away with the Gomez Sim Industries Formula Pro Elite Rim, as well as a next level racing GT track cockpit. One of our Triple Crowns is behind us. The second is looming on the horizon as we get set for our trip to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a couple of rounds' time. Of course, it's the month of May, focused there in the real world as well in the virtual, as we roll towards the iRacing Indy 500. Defending series champion Adam Blocker on the front, the back foot. The defending team champions, the private label Team Hype, very much on the front foot. And let's talk more about this track then, JP. I mean, you talk about the concrete surface, we'll talk about the 14 degrees of banking, the multiple lines that you can take as well, but up above, you get the sense that we're in for a real treat here today.
It's a very unique track because it's not a mile and a half, it's just under that mark at 1.33 miles to be precise. Those 14 degrees of banking have seen open wheel competition in the past, as recently as 2008 prior to the track's closure around 2011. Keep this in mind though. A few different notes when it comes to the open wheel side. Scott Dixon won 3 straight here at this facility. The final 2 races were impacted by weather, but the main thing also of note when it comes to this track in general, it's a circuit that had a revitalization here in Lebanon, Tennessee. It was closed for 10 years before it reopened for competition in 2021, with the NASCAR stock cars making its appearance here. It used to be a track owned, in fact, by the same group that had Dover Motor Speedway, as it's now called, a part of its grouping. Now, for these respective competitors, they're looking to try and get themselves settled in for what's going to be a difficult one. This concrete surface, known for plenty of surprises, plenty of difficulties, and plenty of guitars playing in victory lane.
Unless you're Kyle Busch, in which case you smash the guitar, but we do not advocate guitar violence here. And a shout out to the graphics wizards behind the Lionheart IndyCar Series, Tyler Graff, with a wonderful series logo and race logo, in fact, today for today's event. Just a minute left in practice before we get underway with the crucial 5-minute qualifying session. Why is it crucial? Well, because passing is expected to be difficult. Fuel saving is also going to be important. It's a 150 lap race, just around 200 miles, with a fuel stint predicted of anywhere from 47 upwards in terms of lap time, in terms of fuel stint. However, the tires will fade off as you go through the stint, so managing them is going to be important. But hypothetically, JP, you can make this a 2-stop race and put other people inside the danger zone if they come down onto pit lane.
We're talking about this in length, and in particular, I've noticed this with some of the drivers in practice for tonight. Drivers, depending on how they play things in terms of if there's early cautions, or more so when it comes to the fuel mapping, and how they handle themselves to the corners, might be able to make that stretch forward to get a little bit longer on their stints by up to 12 laps. I think that's going to open up the potential range, especially with this different circuit. But the difficult part of that, Arjuna, will the tires last? Because here's a major thing when it comes to concrete surfaces, especially in the ovals, when it comes to this type of car, and in oval racing in general in iRacing. The tires tend to burn out more on the concrete surface, and that tire wear may lead to tire punctures.
So history to be made here today. The first time the Lionheart Racing Series visits this track. We'll see the Retro Series visit in a couple of weeks' time as well. But 5 minutes on the board, a first pole position up for grabs here today. 4 drivers, have taken pole this season. Adriano Pinheiro, the first 2 rounds. Alexis Newsom at Kentucky at the end of March. Jason Brophy in the first of our Triple Crown races at the Tricky Triangle, the Pocono Raceway. And of course, Philip Kraus put it on pole just a week ago in our second of our road course races in this 2021 campaign. We'll take a look at the track, we'll take a look at the cars out on qualifying, and you already see it's gotten dark here. The clouds have covered the track, and that means you're more pedal to the metal. You've got to risk it for the biscuit, as they say.
Absolutely, especially if you want to get yourself to the top of the board. Robert Malechka III and Jay Brandt, for example, tied themselves in practice with the 23 flats. Here's a thing to consider. Different racing qualifying sets for this round as well, so those drivers better have made sure they practiced with both of those setups. It's fixed series to make sure they know exactly what they need to do when it comes to these qualifying laps, especially since it was discussed for the drivers last round. Track position expected to be huge here today.
On board with Alexander Van der Sant, who's gone relatively slow on his first lap to try and build up for lap number 2. To the line he comes to finish his qualifying session, a 23.108. It's not good enough for the front row. Instead, for now, it's provisionally up to 4th for the driver that debuted at the end of our 2021 campaign. Phil Krause rolls off pit lane. He's building up his momentum. Caleb Bensi, we talked about his run so far this season. He's up to provisional pole, clear of Aaron Morgan by about 0.03 of a second. Look at these margins. Again, a 10 splits, basically the top 10.
Seen a lot of times being put in earlier tonight, in particular in final practice by Philip Krause. He tried several different times throughout the final couple hours before the start of final warm-ups to make sure he was able to get things dialed in. He was around mid-pack in the final practice session, flipping a bit of the apron though in turns 3 and 4, and he's in the wall.
Well, that's going to be Phil Krause starting. Whoa, can he stop it before the line? I think he has. So, in fact, he'll get one more go to get a qualifying lap time in. Pressure's now on his shoulders to roll off and put a benchmark, a flyer in. Alexis Newsom, I think now, another car that's just building the speed. Connor Harrington from the private label Team Hype, only good enough for second. Caleb Bensi looking like he might just secure his first Lionheart IndyCar Series pole position. What a storyline that would be for him. Could he control the pace of the race from there? Newsom builds up the speed. Jay Brandt's gone to 6th as we watch Andrew Kinsella working around the track.
I'm really intrigued with the different approaches as Kinsella approaches a bit of the wall, and that will cost him a chance likely to qualify towards the front and have to take a tow down the backstretch. But for some of these competitors, they've been trying that top line, seeing if that would work for qualifying here. Only a few have done it. Others, they've tried to go to the bottom both times around. The main thing to think about, though, it is very tight off turn 4, especially if you nick that apron. It can send you right to the safer barrier.
Phil Krause.
Galvin.
Phil Krause goes top, 23.030, back-to-back pole positions. Caleb Bensi robbed of the chance to secure his first run to the green flag by himself. 2 end-of-line penalties to speak of. Sorry to cut you off there, JP. Adam Blocker, Joshua Chin have it all to do from the back of the field. Still a couple of cars yet to put in lap times. Andrew Kinsella, we saw his struggle on lap 1, still yet to come and put in a lap time. Lionel Kalisto the other, and this man, Robert Malechka, someone that we were expecting a lot more from in 2022.
He also had to put in a tow during his first qualifying lap, though. This has to be the money lap for one of the quickest drivers in qualifying in the past year and a half or so in Lionheart. Can he do it? His warm-up was decent in the 30-second bracket to get fully up to speed. Won't be enough. Krause was able to do it with just about half a lap to get up to speed. Can Malechka III match him?
15 starts before this, 3 pole positions. Malechka's a flyer in qualifying through turn 4 with the pressure on his shoulders. The 91 dips down to the apron, 23.030 to beat. It's a 23.063. The margins are so fine. 300s dumps him down to 5th position. Wow, oh wow, we've got a race in store for us here today, and Philip Krause will line up at the front of the field for the second consecutive race in a row. We're ready, though, to stop the talking. We're ready to go racing. Let's go trackside here in the Music City, excuse me. Let's run you down through the starting grid for the next level racing, Nashville 200. It's his 3rd Lionheart IndyCar Series pole position, and back-to-back Phil Krause will lead us to the green. for the private label Team Hype. Caleb Bensi alongside with a very strong opportunity to get his first podium in his IndyCar Series career. Alexis Newsom looks to bounce back from some disappointing form to start the season off, looking to build up the momentum. She'll be alongside Connor Harrington in the number 44 machine. Robert Malechka and Jason Brophy, the two friends alongside one another on row 3 with Aaron Morgan and Adriano Pinheiro, 7th and 8th positions. Rolling from 9th is Mitchell Riggs with James Brandt completing the top 10. Andrew Marquez and Alexander Van der Sat 11th and 12th, while row 7 sees Chris Fowler's Madworks Motorsports number 20 alongside your 2020 Lionheart Retro Series champion in Ryan Otis. Kite Bombers back and Michael O'Brien 15th and 16th, while sharing row 9 sees Mike Rigney and believe, because it scrolled through just before I saw that, Matt Taylor. Stefan Larkamp, Brian Beard through the top 20 with Brian Carey and Alex Guyon right behind them. Tyler Graff and AJ Musselman 23rd and 24th, while shotgun from 25th is Tony Shaw and Joe Branch alongside him. Dustin Wardlow and Paul Jenkins behind them with Matthias Kraus and Luis Gonzalez Nunez through the top 30. 31st sees Andrew Kinsella with Jason Galvin alongside. Two cars that have some work to do. Ron Hacker, Chris Lanini share row 17. Barrett Rolfe, again a disappointing qualifying for him. What does he need to do to get that car up there in the field? He'll be alongside Matt Houston on row 18. Final car with the lap time on the board, it is Adam Frazier, while Adam Blocker, Joshua Chin end of line penalties. No lap time down from Lionel Kalisto. He has got a lot of work to do along with those hard chargers he will be with. As always, we have onboard cameras throughout the entire field, but 4 very special ones. Let's run you through our featured onboards here today. Phil Kraus has the Moser Racing onboard, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com.
With the next level racing on board today, it's Mitchell Riggs in the 09. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com.
Ryan Otis carries the butt kicker on board. Sim racing is better with butt kicker. Visit thebuttkicker.com.
And with the HyperX on board, it's Matt Taylor. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
What does Nashville have in store for us? It will shred through the tires. Who will get into the groove? Who will feel the rhythm in the Music City? 150 laps on the board. Phil Kraus is looking to win 4 races in a row. To quote Justin Prince, he's looking to outblocker Adam Blocker to try and dethrone the king of Lionheart. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the Next Level Racing Nashville 200. We're getting ready to go racing, and Phil Kraus punches the throttle. We're racing in the Music City. Good start from Phil Kraus. Alexis Newsom already getting past Caleb Bensi. The shuffle for track position starts to go on. Couple of fights too wide. Drivers have to remember, JP, they've got to manage the tires. Newsom and Bensi side by side again.
Newsom showed a lot of comfortability when it came to qualifying up towards the top. It looks like Newsom's carrying that momentum and has found something that seems to be working to get some clean air and avoid some of the aero wash with that tight corner exit radius around the track today. But as we've seen right off the jump, a lot of the drivers, you catch anybody sleeping, they're immediately going to try and go for the jump near 3 wide a couple times already the first couple laps.
Adam Blocker is already up to 32nd position. Josh Chin, of note, still down in 37th, so we'll track these two cars and their relative progress. Blocker already gets past his teammate Andrew Kinsella and dive down low on Dustin Wardlow. Finding those pockets of clean air is going to be important. He'll slide back in line for now. Kinsella's the one getting checked up. Here comes Barrett Rolfe.
A lot of boxed-in drivers right now, Barrett Rolfe. Remember, he's had a lot of qualifying struggles, especially at tracks like this. Rolfe, though, we know can be fast if he gets good track position. He's had 0 luck so far in the IndyCar Series this season. His contact in front of him. One car nearly hits Blocker as Rolfe trying to dodge it. It's Luis Gonzalez Nunez with a massive save.
The Sim Race 24/7 car just about holds on. Now, is there damage to that car? He's slow. Very slow on the outside line. Dustin Wardlow's the big loser in that situation, as in front looks like Hacker and Lanini are going side by side. We'll stay green for now. We'll get a replay of what happened there, but up front, Malechka sliding backwards. Here comes Pinheiro, the Brazilian, looking down low.
Pinheiro also showed some good speed throughout some of the ovals in the early portion of the season. Homestead comes to mind. Just having a hard time, it looks like, trying to sort things out to get around the 91. Rhythm this track is fairing out. You see the differences already, though. Looking like that top line is talked about with Newsom. Still kicking on in for others. Hearing there might be some drivers with some concerns with some of the shuffling we're seeing from another couple competitors at the head of this pack.
You expect it to be racy. Let's grab a look at what happened here. So working down the back straight, it looks nice and tidy, at least for the time being. He's alongside with one of the black machines, and he gets a tap from Dustin Wardlow, and Adam Blocker inches from disaster.
Wardlow actually got to the back end of him, and yes, with a lot more speed on Apex right there. Don't think he was expecting that bit of a slower Apex speed from the both of them. If anything, Blocker very lucky. His right front tire just didn't go over top the left rear of Nunez's car.
Let's grab a look on board with Adam Blocker and see from his perspective what happens. You see the contact, and now you see him just trying to shuffle down the track, and that is too close for comfort, and that's one of the reasons, among many, why end-of-line penalties are, to quote Lewis McLeod, our fellow RaceSpotTV commentator, suboptimal. You get put in positions where you really don't want to be. Here's a battle between Brian Carey and Tyler Groff. Carey's lost 3 positions on the start. Was talking to him before this race got underway as Alexander Van der Sande gets in front of Jay Braun. Brian Carey didn't buy the track before today, so he's had to get up to speed very quickly, but that's where JP, having the teams, right, the advantage in numbers. Powerslide have 7 drivers entered in this series. Having that knowledge base that's built up from the other drivers can really help you out.
It can, especially if you get the chance to, say, sit down with some of those team members, be able to see how they've been driving on the track in their practice sessions, maybe as they're practicing even as the higher benefit of those 2 options. And it really helps accelerate things if you're brand new to the circuit and or don't have too much time to learn a brand new racetrack compared to circuits that you may have had, say, 10 years of experience at. Meanwhile, though, Mitchell Riggs, liking what I've seen so far from the 09. He's looking feisty, looking clean so far, trying to get around Morgan.
Morgan was devastated after the incident that happened a week ago, or rather 2 incidents, both with Adam Blocker. On lap 1, Blocker getting loose through turn 4 at Silverstone, snaps that car around. Morgan nowhere to go, he goes around as well. And then as both cars try to recover into the final section of Village at the start of the lap at Silverstone, Blocker trying a look down to the inside. Morgan didn't see him, turned in, and Blocker was already there, a bit deep and optimistic, and Blocker making contact, taking Morgan out. That's the reason why Adam Blocker is starting at the tail end of our field here today. Morgan has lost a spot to Pinheiro, but still a long way to go, sits up in 8th. Not a bad start when all things are considered. Barrett Rolfe continues to fight. This time he's alongside with Matthias Kraus.
I'm trying to fight because he's got good pace. He's just been trying to fall whatever cars Blocker has already passed. Ralph is saying it looks like he wants to be the next car immediately to peel that next driver back on the pylon. See, for example, others are seeing a possible opportunity to follow suit. Matthias Kraus trying to regather around Kinsella, for example. It's not easy to pass, as we've seen, though, already. The tire wear really starting to kick in. The fall already nearly half a second for some of the cars, especially Kraus at the head of the field.
We'll talk more about fuel saving maybe later on. Stefan Larkamp chasing down Alex Gouillon, has a bit of separation to Tyler Groff. We talk about fuel windows, 150 laps with the indicated fuel window just under 50. We talk, though, about the tire fall-off. Undercutting will be powerful here, that is for sure. However, if we get a caution, an ill-timed caution, you're trapped a lap down. It is very much not a position you really want to put yourself in. Bomber's back had a look down low on Ryan Otis, the Madworks Motorsports teammate. Take 2 different lines. O'Brien runs the outside groove.
Michael O'Brien very quiet throughout the season, trying to zip his way along that top, and you see Mike Rigney also trying to follow suit in the head of the field as well. Rigney, remember, is amongst those who has really rolled some of the strategy dices throughout the campaign. It's just been the matter of trying to outsmart the others, playing 4D chess, so to speak. Rigney, though, this time has someone on the box with him. One of the drivers, it's Sam Crow, is working with him tonight.
Always useful to have that second opinion in a race where strategy might decide it. Phil Kraus already 1.3 seconds clear. We did expect the clean air at the front to be important, but he's already catching those behind us. Adam Blocker, Barrett Rolfe trying to figure out who's going to lead the charge forward between the two of them. Mitchell Riggs gets past Aaron Morgan. Morgan back to 9th.
Seen that coming with how feisty Riggs was getting a couple laps ago in particular on the bottom of the racetrack, just having a hard time with the aero wash through 3 and 4, as well as making sure they weren't side by side on exit of 4, because as we've seen in qualifying, very easy to knock the wall down. But here's the main thing. Some of the team members are starting to work together. See this contingency, for example, right now. You have O'Brien, Fowler, and company work together. But then you have battles like this one. And how quick is the pace already for some of the drivers compared to front to back? Half a second a lap. It's nearly to where Kraus is a quarter of a track behind this main pack of cars, 23rd on back, and might be dealing with traffic in the next 10, 15, 20 laps.
And that's why, if you are Kraus, you maybe bump it down into a map 5. You save some fuel, you save the tires, you try and just play the strategy out as long as you can. On board with Joe Branch, who's going to have now a look down to the inside of... that is Tyler Graf. Brian Carey loses out there to his fellow Power Slide crewmate as... oh, he's almost up into the wall!
That's an airtight moment once again, and what did I just say? This track is very difficult in a stock car, let alone in an open wheel car. It's very easy if you miss that apex, especially corner off, you end up potentially knocking into the safer barrier, and it can potentially build up lots of damage. You need to be careful as a competitor and smart if you want to try and make a pass of that part of the track, and make sure you're not one of those cars washing up. One car just did that, is in the grass.
Jason Galvin, the 42, shortcuts the tri-oval wall, slides up the track, but wrangles control of that 42 machine. That was good heads-up driving. We stay green.
I seen that right in the backdrop. It looked like he was on his own, but he almost went too quick on the throttle more so. With a bit of weight jacker as well, kicked him into the grass, and here's another main thing. In-car tools will be a major talking point and have been a major talking point. This track is no exception, because drivers were expected to use a lot of it today, Arjuna, and some drivers may be trying to go even more than the a lot of weight jacker recommended.
You've got to stay on top of the tools. You've got to be proactive. You cannot be reactive. Let's have a look at the RaceSpotTV replay and watch us. There you see the snap, and good job to get it straight and then over the grass when you've got less grip to make sure that you don't spin out. That was good driving from Galvin, but unfortunately now he is going to probably drop a lap down. He's still technically in the draft of Dustin Wardlow, but very, very close to falling out of the leading pack. There's your leader, though, Phil Kraus, rounding himself across the back straightaway, as we grab a look from the viewpoint of Barney the Flagman. Lap time here about 24 seconds right now, JP. Jason Galvin, 20 seconds back from the lead. One car already 1 lap down. Adam Frazier had to, in a hurry, reconnect to the server just before we got underway.
Yeah, had some technical issues right before the grid started rolling, and because he had to start from the pit lane and was one of the final drivers in qualifying. In fact, one of the drivers who was at the bottom of those recording times, he had to go the full length of the pit lane. That cost him the full lap by the time he got to the pit exit, compared to someone who may have that same situation, qualifying top 10. Looking at a couple different battles in the heart of the field, though, still see the differences compared to lighter traffic and heavy traffic in terms of how some of these drivers are approaching things, but also how some of these drivers are trying to sort things out compared from 7 to, say, 31st.
There's a bit of side-by-side just in front of this battle where we are watching Lionel Kalisto. I believe that's Brian Carey again resuming the hostilities with Tyler Graf. Those two seem to have magnets on each other's cars and continue to squabble amongst each other. Matt Taylor, Mike Rigney as well, close with one another. That 0-0 hunting down Matt Taylor. Do watch Matt Taylor. The word from the paddock is that Taylor's been quite good at conserving his tires, and in a tire-limited race, expect him to be the one running some alternate lines as we get deeper and deeper into this run, already halfway through the fuel window. Barrett Rolfe, Adam Blocker. It's good to see the fighting, but Adam Blocker will be thinking the more we fight, the less time we're catching, the less able we are to carve up through the field.
As a matter of fact, these drivers already 17 seconds back, and if anything, their progression forward has gone into a brick wall.
Well, talking of the wall, that is an IR-18 that has a hefty dose of damage now that the crew will have to try and buff out. Kraus flies on past, Newsom as well. We've got our first car with significant damage here.
And Kraus is also with suspension damage, because the reason for that contact down the front, Kalisto got loose right in front of Kraus, and Kraus has a right front tire down with the chassis. Massive trouble out of turn 4. This would be, yes, right there. A little bobble with the weight jacker right along the front of Kraus and hard contact for the both of them.
And not much the German could do, and if he is in Germany, it's a late night for him. Won't be thrilled with how that, or early morning, depending on how you look at it, won't be thrilled at how his race has potentially been ended. Traffic does mean Newsom is closing. Gap is down to 0.8 of a second. First car they'll catch up to is Dustin Wardlow, then 1.5 seconds before they get into the meat of the field.
I think that's going to be a major trouble spot, that traffic, in the next little bit, because it's going to be pretty heavy. And I'm curious how it plays out. Are we going to see a Phoenix style of traffic management, or will we see Dustin Wardlow knock the wall down in front of the race leaders? We'll get the latter of the two.
Turn 4 seems to be the problem spot for many of these drivers. We talked about needing to be on top of your tools, and Dustin Wardlow has decided that he's not going to cause any issues. He's going to take the tow back to pit lane. The Candyman drops then out of the running order. And again, we'll go back to those in-car tools. Front and rear anti-roll bar. You want it loose, you want it, if you want it free, you go one way. You want it tight, you want it to be a little bit more plowy. Maybe as you run through the run, you progress to being a little bit more free. Got to make sure on top of that. The weight jacker as well will help you, and I think that's one thing where drivers sometimes find themselves just a little bit back on, in terms of responding to where they are. We'll have a look at what happened to the Candyman.
Compared to the very loose weight jacker moments, this just as simple. Plowed tight, not a good corner apex off. Into the wall, bye-bye suspension, bye-bye race car, and as a result, into the grass.
Matthias Kraus is back on track, by the way, rolling off a pit lane. So is Lionel Kalisto, both 5 laps down, but seems like the damage that they incurred was, at the very least, not significant enough to drop them out of consideration here today. Well, we're in this single file stretch of the race where the tires very much have burned through. Barrett Rolfe past Paul Jenkins, that's really the only bit of action that we've got, but let's take a look at our Moser Racing driver profile, and it's someone that does enjoy a short track. Now, this isn't a short track, but I think those instincts of preserving your race car and moving forward will be important. Brian Beard, 91 career starts, going back to season 5 when he started his career at America's National Park of Speed. 28 top 10s, 2 top 5s, but more significantly to me is 2 pole positions. He's a driver that knows how to extract speed in qualifying.
Yeah, we've seen it in particular at a lot of the bigger tracks. Last season in particular came to mind where he seemed to start towards the front at tracks like Pocono. Tracks such as Indianapolis showed good qualifying pace, and if I remember right. Beard's someone that, when the bigger the track is on an oval, the more consistent he can get. I like the speed he showcased in this series. It's just been the trouble this season of getting himself fully in the conversation. He's been borderline top 10 throughout the season as, this is a call. Jenkins is pitting before lap 40.
This is a call, now is it the call? He's banking that the undercut basically is going to work in his favor. So he's going to box early, get some fresh Firestone rubber on his car as Joshua Chin boxes out Andrew Kinsella. Chris Lanini's going to try and look down low. It's the last time that we'll see Andrew Kinsella as a competitor who is not married. This coming weekend, he's got his nuptials as he marries his fiancée Sophia. Sophia's watching. We wish you the best as all. Brian Carey, Joshua Chin almost made contact. Carey up into the wall. Does this bring out the caution?
This has to. He's spinning down the track. There it is.
And that is not what Paul Jenkins would have wanted to see. He goes 2 laps down in the blink of an eye.
And it just looked like things were okay after the 3-1. If anything, a very slight graze from Chin. And then, here's the weird part of all this. Carey about 5-6 seconds later almost, 3 seconds later I should say, just then goes straight up the track with a little wobble. That's enough to catch him off guard, and up into the safer barrier he goes and completely destroys the car.
Now I wonder if there's any damage to his machine. So that's right on board with the Canadian as he works into turn 2. Ooh, I think what happens is he lets off the steering in reaction to what he thinks is about to be a 3-wide moment on the entry to turn 1. And by the time you turn back in, this track is so high commitment, so high speed, it was too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, you see, here's why he was under attack here. You already had Tony Shalwin trying to take a peek. You had Joshua Chin the past couple laps trying to run the Darlington line at Nashville and making it somewhat work in the 30s. And then right about here, they grazed just a tight bit there. Everything looks okay. And then Right there, he just has that wobble that sends him a little bit too tight. That one little reaction where it goes from normal steering to straight is enough to just send him right into the wall.
To be fair, now that I've looked at it from up above, I don't think he was opening the steering. I think he was forced to open the steering. Not much that Brian Carey could do, but the field will come in. Paul Jenkins will get 1 lap back. Will he get 2 laps back? I don't think he will. Who wins the race off of pit road? It's an important time to execute on pit lane. Phil Krause is going to be close with Newsom, but Newsom will slot into second. Bensi third. Harrington fourth. Brophy, then Malechka with Pinheiro behind him. A car spinning on pit lane. Now, who is that? Joe Branch.
In the middle of the pit lane, too, and is still trying to get going. This has just turned disastrous. When it comes to Branch, he was having a decent run before the caution.
Is that Joe Branch? I think it is Joe Branch.
Or whoever that is in that sequence, should say.
There it is. I thought black and orange, it's got to be Joe Branch, and it was. Let's have a look at this one. I wonder if there was contact or if he spins it by himself. So it's going to be on exit. He's going to drop off, get on the power, and I think just going to light up those rear tires and sloop it around right now. Let's take a look. There he goes, already spinning. And yeah, there you go.
And then just lights it up a second time. Wow. Tony Schauen lucky he didn't T-bone the side there, and then it's an adventure to get back going. To put it simply, for Joe Branch, he puts in sim, whoops.
I get the feeling that actually what happens is he lit up the rear tires, got them heated up when he initially dropped, and then by the time he got back onto the power, let's just say the tires didn't like it.
You're exactly right on that matter, because you light up those back tires, catch a bit of a slide, then in some cases it comes up in particular during, say, an accident where you're getting back going up to speed after locking it up and getting back rolling. You end up thinking, oh, we're stable, let's go back on the gas. You light them up again, you end up spinning even more so, and it usually ends up being the bigger of the two.
Reminder, you're watching RaceSpotTV and ESTV for coverage of the Next Level Racing Nashville 200. A shout out to Next Level Racing, who do some fun stuff with us. Couple of, feels like weeks, but in reality it was months ago. Next Level Racing, Team Fordzilla, and RaceSpot all teamed up for Fiesta Showdown at the Crandon International Raceway. We took the Rallycross cars, we took some Team Fordzilla Pro esports drivers and matched them up against the community. We matched them up against some influencers, and we had a blast at Crandon, leaping those tiny little Rallycross cars that are track designed for the Pro 4 and the Pro 2 trucks to go jumping up. Keep an eye out as well. There may be more things coming up on the horizon. We'll get back to green, working lap 45, but crucially, we didn't see green flag pit stops other than from Paul Jenkins. And the reason why I bring that up as significant, JP, is drivers have been told they have to enter pit lane on the entry into turn 3. They must use the access road. That is every car, whether it's a pit stop under green, whether it's a pit stop under caution, must use the access road.
And for those who may have not ran this track before, may not have gotten the chance to practice on that type of configuration sequence before, that can be very difficult, to say the very least. So you have to be smart when it comes to that, as what is going on here?
Looks like some confusion as Luis Gonzalez, Nunez and company is dropping back. Now, I'm not sure exactly where the pace car deployed, who it caught when it rolled, but maybe a bit of confusion there as lights are off. We're back to green this time around. So from here, you can make it with one more stop. How brave do you want to be? How closely have you been watching your fuel numbers? What can that right foot of yours do in conjunction with the engine maps available? Phil Krause has led 44 laps. He'll bring us back to the green on lap number 45. A long old hold. We're back underway at Nashville. Out of caution again.
And it looks like they're trying to resort things, and a couple drivers may have nearly stacked up trying to sort themselves up because of what was going on out of turns 1 and 2. I don't think the wave around cars got the wave around from the iRacing pace car.
So that's why they were dropping back. I was very confused, but now I wonder, does this require some manual intervention from our team of race control? George Anzaldo, Mark Cohen will be watching on and making sure that we've got to figure out what's going on here. But
at the very least, they weren't sorted out, Arjun. If they started the way they were, it would have been a tough spot because you had 6 or 7 cars and nearly a dead stop at the bottom of the racetrack. It looks like they're trying to sort things out here.
Yeah, now
they might have to extend it. There it is. Lights back on.
And they've stopped it. They've completely stopped it as well. As in, stopped the cars out on track. Bit interesting of a scene, but first time we've come to Nashville in Lionheart competition. Things are going to be learned as the pace car decides that he's no mortal man. I've been rewatching Lord of the Rings. For those who watch The Return of the King, it's almost like the Ghost Army there. But we'll rack them up, we'll stack them up again. We'll hopefully get underway, I would guess, on lap 47, JP.
Gonna be a bit helpful for some in the fuel, maybe, in regards to trying to make things simpler in that regard, but if you're some of the drivers who had pit before that caution, you're thinking, I wish I had better luck at this point. That's the only best way you can put it. And now, the driver's getting a chance to regroup with the clouds gathering up and the one-to-go signal again on the track.
Let's talk about the weather very quickly. It's relatively warm given what we're seeing in terms of that cloud cover, because it's a very cloudy day here just outside of the city limits in Nashville, Tennessee. We're just after lunch here in as you like to say, JP, iRacing Day, 15th of May, the default day for all iRacing events. 30 degrees up in the air, 43 down on the track, which it won't be helping the life of those tires. It's a cool wind, which is nice to see. That humidity, though, does stand out to me.
Yeah, the 10% humidity I found surprising. Very dry, let's put it that way, in terms of that humidity. In turn, it's really skyrocketed the track temperature a little bit. I think if you have it more, it would be even higher, let's put it that way, though, if you were at, say, 56% humidity. By the way, just got confirmation from Race Control here through the sim. They will be giving the drivers who are supposed to get that wave around before that restart, those waves, it looks like. Frazier, Nunez, Jenkins will get that opportunity right now.
And there they go, lights back on the pace car as well, so the advantage of manual race control. If sometimes our racing does stuff wrong, we can correct it. We can get back underway with the order as it should be. So we started with 40 cars, 2 have retired. Dustin Wardlow, the first, after his plowing moment through turn 4 as he mowed down the wall. Brian Carey, 3-wide situation, did not work in his favor. Joshua Chin had an end-of-line penalty coming into this race. Will he have an end-of-line penalty heading out of this race? And has Adam Blocker just had a technical issue? He's dropping down the timing screen. A driver that's had almost no luck to start the year off, Justin. Well, our defending champion continues to be on the back foot.
I think you're right. This may have been the worst case scenario and then some. Yes, can confirm a very quick technical issue for Adam Blocker. And even if he didn't have it where he was still on track, he might have been going straight towards the wall because of the technical issue. In other words, Adam Blocker's season has just been flipped upside down, and the first time in a long time, I think, Arjuna, he'll be having to use a drop for a DNF, possibly. Usually
Adam Blocker's drops are with his commitments trackside with the NTT IndyCar Series. What's going to happen? And his championship hopes continue to hang in the balance. Will we get underway this time around? The pace car's off. Again, the field's in control of Phil Krause. It's a long hold once more as he waits to get us back underway. We're racing again in the next level racing, Nashville 200.
Already feel the drivers getting a bit antsy. Jason Brophy, he already lost the draft in that first run. Robert Malechka, the third, wanting to get by already, just can't get the run, it looks like.
Good indication of what a restart's going to look like at the front of the field. No real moves being made. You look backwards, though, and drivers have looked to try and time that caution. Tony Schowen sees a fistful of dirty air going the way of Stefan Larkamp from Barrett Rolf. He'll try and take advantage of that situation.
Rolf gained a few spots with that caution flag, was at the back end of the top 25. Now looking to battle it out for 21st. Just has to be able to complete this, and he can't afford to diddle-daddle with this. Guyon not making it easy, but Rolf could lose the draft if this continues for another set of corners. It's going to, it looks like.
Adam Blocker has scored his 4 laps down. Will we see him roll back on, out onto track? I think we will. He's going to try and salvage something from the race here today. Andrew Kinsella alongside with Stefan Larkamp now as they squabble over what is 24th position. I just saw as well that his current fiancée, soon-to-be wife, Sophia, has jumped into the YouTube chat, so I'll reiterate what I said a couple of laps ago. Kinsella, his last race as, well, not a bachelor, but as a not married man, celebrating his wedding this weekend. We wish him and his fiance the best for all of the future. Battle going on behind Joe Branch as well as Jason Galvin squabbling. Remember, Jason Galvin's the one that had that very scary trip through the grass after losing it out of turn 4.
And he's one of the few drivers who's led laps in this race here today from that time at Dover in series history. Season 4, Season 5, that was about at least 4 years ago, give or take. And Galvin was one of the few who led laps. Adam Blocker you could put in that category. A couple others as well who've made starts this season. Jason Galvin, though, has really struggled here in Nashville with some of the conditions. Several you can put in that category. Pinheiro, though, he's been nice and calm and very quiet right where he started the race in 8th.
He's been running some interesting lines as he searches for some clean air on the nose of his car. In front of him looks like Malechka and Brophy again trying to figure out who wants to try and lead the party as they look on forward. Pinheiro, though, can't just look forward. He's got to look backwards as well, as closing on him is the Mitchell Riggs. He talks about Ascari Autosport and the run that they've had so far this year. Mitchell Riggs, not Barrett Rolfe, might be the one that we look to lead the charge through the rest of 2022.
Riggs has been a bit better in qualifying. His luck has been in the same boat, I've noticed, compared to his teammate in Rolfe. But you're right in terms of some of the consistency we've seen at times. Riggs, when he's got himself dialed in, really dial himself forward up on the grid. Right now, just trying to pace himself with this aero wash and trying the different lines. You see it right there. Pinheiro going for that top line on entry, forced Riggs to lift a little bit more on that apex. Cost him a little bit of time. Now he tries the bottom to avoid some of the aero wash. Right there, there it is, right there to get him tight again.
Behind them, Ryan Otis, Jay Brandt fighting over 12th position as your 2020 Lionheart Retro Series champion gets past the 15, who's lost 3 positions from where he started. Big movers, big shakers to get things underway here today. That's not the right button. That is the right button. 14 positions for Barrett Rolfe, 13 for Joshua Chin, his end-of-line penalty, and not letting him carve through the field in the same way that we saw from Adam Blocker, so Chin has still got some work to do and might have another end-of-line penalty if race control decides that he's responsible for the moment of contact that saw Brian Carey end up out of this race. Again, the gap up front is increased, is up to 1 second as you see Adam Blocker slotting into line. He's looking feisty as he tries to fight his way to the front of the pack.
4 laps down, though, and this would be his worst finish in a long time, to say the very least. 35th position on track. 2 other cars, 1 lap down to the race. Everybody else is either out of the race or 5 laps down. Of note, Fraser Munstrom with the disqualification. He didn't serve a black flag. But for Blocker, he needs a lot of craziness. He needs this racetrack to turn into the Monster Mile. Unfortunately, that's not likely to happen, even though they had that affiliation in the past.
Tony Shaw and Andrew Kinsella, power slide teammates alongside one another as the Iowa native rips the outside groove and works his way up to 23rd position. Continue to fight side by side. Remember, we were just in the midst of working through traffic before the caution flew for the first time today. So for the likes of Phil Krause, Alexis Newsom, Caleb Bensi, they've got some time to settle back into the groove and enjoy the clean air that they'll have right now. But already now, 14 seconds, 15 seconds off the leader is Matt Houston in 32nd. We're not far away from seeing the leader back into traffic.
Still about 15-20 laps away based on the current pace. The main trend of notice, though, is especially with some of these leaders bowing out and some of these other drivers in the middle of the pack trying to sort things together, Krause has had the strategy of break ahead, try and get around 1.3 seconds, I've noticed, then let it back on down, keep it even around that mark if he can, save a little bit, if not a lot of bit of fuel, up at the very front after setting the fastest laps in the entire race for the entire field by a couple tenths of a second. And then, if it comes down to it, don't be afraid to let them reel in a bit with some of the aero wash with this back end of the train. That's what happened last run. Wouldn't be surprised if Krause tries that again, especially with how treacherous things were getting back around this grouping of the 20s last run.
And going back to Adam Blocker for a moment, it's basically damage limitation right now, JP, where he needs to make sure he doesn't get any penalties heading to Watkins Glen. He needs to make sure he's in a position where if other people have trouble, he's able to work his way forward and recover some points. But ultimately, it's very similar to what we talk about a lot during the VCO Esports Racing World Cup, where it's a team composition there, but with drivers running by themselves. So 3 cars, the best 2 of them score points. You never want that 3rd car who's running dead last of the 3 to get penalty points. Blocker's in a very similar sort of a situation.
especially with how bad that run at Silverstone was we talked about. He'll need to just make sure he gives the lap car space. That has been a talking point throughout the season for some, remember, where they've had battles with the race leaders, and incidents happen involving some of those groupings. You need to be smart. If you're Adam Blocker, he's looking that way right now. He's been letting the leaders fight, but also knows he's got fresher tires because the technical issue by a couple laps. That'll mean he's a little bit quicker for now, especially compared to some that are battling like this for 7th.
Already getting to the halfway marker of the race as we jump on board with our next level racing onboard. Excuse me there. Looks down low. Malechka gives him some dirty air. They're losing track. Malechka got passed by Alexander Van der Sant, who's trying to bring the fight to Jason Brophy. When you look at it, not just from the individual drivers championship here, JP, you look at it from the team championship. Blocker's struggles mean that, again, with Phil Krause, Connor Harrington, Jason Brophy running inside of the top 5 for the private label Team Hype, they continue to extend their gap at the front of a HyperX team standings.
And that's a great point to bring up because remember last year, Blocker was essentially scoring points for his own one-team grouping. The rest of Power Slide Adrenaline had their own contingency. This season, he's paired with Alexander Van der Sant. You also put in Andrew Kinsella amongst that grouping, etc., as on top of the Power Slide Ignition drivers, such as Robert Malechka III. Here's the tough thing, though. For Alexander Van der Sant, he's been inside the top 10 for much of this race. Started in 12th, he's in 6th. Decent points haul there. But outside of that, everyone else who's amongst that part of the garage for Power Slide has really struggled today and are outside the top 15. Kinsella has really struggled too in 23rd. As here's a look at the ignition car.
Well, let's go and contact Pinheiro. Malechka, Riggs gets involved with their caution for the 2nd time today, and Malechka and Pinheiro are done. They're dusted. Will Mitchell Riggs emerge unscathed after bringing that car down to pit lane?
What did I say about being careful off turn 4? And being careful side by side if anyone slips up, if anyone clips the apron, if anyone gets tight on corner exit with how tight that exit is, you slam the wall. Malechka III says he thinks a throttle may have broke on his car as well as it takes all 3 of them up into the safer barrier at various points. Hard contact, Pinheiro and Malechka III.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if both the left and right rear on that car have broken significantly. So you'll see Pinheiro gets a little bit squirrely. Then Malechka, well, I mean, you could make the argument, I guess, if you wanted, that maybe Malechka could have left a little bit more room and run up a little bit high. This will be a good view from Mitchell Riggs' perspective with the Next Level Racing. Pinheiro might even have clipped the apron very slightly, and then, oh, no, never mind. Take back what I said. He slides all the way up the track.
And here's the thing, you clip the apron at Nashville Superspeedway, you push tight just like that. Stock car, open wheel car, doesn't matter. And it will have big ramifications as a result for the field because mixed strategies, Brophy, Van der Sant, Marquez, amongst those coming in, most of the field is staying out though.
Now, it is a bit early to make it to the end from here. I guess what they're thinking is the run was about 30 laps, which was in the ballpark of when drivers thought it would be worth it to come down to pit road, get some tires, and run, try and carve their way up through the field. Van der Sant might even beat Brophy off of pit road. It's going to be neck and neck, but I think he's a nose in front. Van der Sant might just have pulled a blinder there on pit lane. 4/10 slower from cone to cone was Jason Brophy.
Yeah, Brophy's had some struggles. Oh, and hearing something may have popped up there. Pit exit closed.
Oh, no.
That's a penalty.
So the field had yet to roll through.
That's an end of longest line penalty, I believe, at least.
I'm not seeing anything thrown from iRacing just yet, but you can see Jason Brophy is slowing down. Van der Sant hasn't done so just yet.
Yeah, Brophy has to let by the spots. Looks like Van der Sant also in that grouping, so they'll have to be behind everybody else on this strategy. So take them out of the equation for the battle up front. 19th on back pit, but many of those drivers losing time. Mitchell Riggs, main thing he had to do was change the front wing. He's still in a decent spot, 2nd off the lane in the pit lane. Off the pit lane now because of that.
Yeah, when all things are said and done. it could have been worse for Mitchell Riggs. Now we get to see what old tires are like compared to new tires. Blocker's persistence has paid off, by the way, in front now of Malechka and in front of Pinheiro. So still 4 laps down, but you make do with what you've got. It's as simple as that. Now, pit exit would have been closed, JP, because we've got such a big field. The entirety of the field has got to pass by the pit exit before they'll open it for cars on pit lane.
Exactly. Yes, there's that access road when it comes to the circuit, but you have to remember at a lot of tracks, especially the 1.5 miles, especially tracks of this similar shape, even a little bit smaller like this one, you have to wait until you get that signal from the in-sim saying, pit exit open, be able to roll on forward. You have to come to that full stop. You cross the pit exit line at all with it labeled as closed, and depending on the severity and where you do it, you will end up being in a spot where you end up getting end of the longest line penalties.
So we're looking at, what, a 78 lap race or so from here. Now, of course, by the time the lights come off, it will be slightly different. But if you are a car that is yet to box, you're looking at coming into pit lane in probably 10 to 20 laps time, from which point you could make it to the end, but with fuel saving. Whereas if you're one of those cars that is boxed, you could split this into a one-stop race from here, and a pretty comfortable one-stop race, with plenty of wiggle room on the strategy too.
Exactly. And while it takes a lot of thinking to process how this could break down, especially if you're a strategist at this point, track position has been paramount in this race, yes, but here's the major thing. If you can get that benefit of having that strategy to be able to equalize amongst everyone else, I think you're golden. If you're those drivers 19th on back, you're hoping it stays green, obviously. You get a caution right before they would have to pit the drivers, though, all bets are off.
What we'll say is you never trust a couple of things out of a commentator's mouth. Their strategies, or sometimes every single word that we spout. But the reality is, the second caution will come to an end. The third, technically, if you want to put it that way. Phil Krause has still led every single lap here at the Nashville Super Speedway. A much earlier jump. We're back underway. The Next Level Racing Nashville 200. And this time it's Connor Harrington, who is close enough to try and put the pressure onto Caleb Bensi.
Trying to use that top lane with some momentum on the back straightaway. Here it goes for the switch.
Momentum on his side. Can he slide up the track as they throw into turn 3? Harrington arcing the corner a little bit extra than you would do normally, just trying to get the exit corner momentum, but Bensi should be able to hold on, at least for the time being. Harrington not giving this up.
I think if you're Harrington, you're absolutely thinking of opportunity, but Bensi has that preferred line, it seems, for that exit of turn 2 to make passes. And that's really hurt them, both of them. They've nearly lost a full second of the race leader. A little feisty behind them, as we've seen all day, though. Very difficult to pass. Jay Brandt clipped a bit of the apron nearly to the wall.
I did hear a bit of contact. We see Adam Blocker in front of Aaron Morgan, Jay Brandt, so this is probably not a terrible situation if you're Morgan or if you're Brandt. You have one of the best of Lionheart in front of you, and maybe you'll be able to use him to work forward. Blocker's on pretty fresh tires in comparison to the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's going to be intriguing, too, to consider here. Blocker has a little bit fresher tires, to correct myself real quick on that point. But here's the tough thing. He's going to still need plenty of cautions if he wants to get in the conversation. But as we've crossed the halfway point, anything could happen in the Music City.
It's been a crazy race, but a tire-filled strategy race as well. Halfway through the Next Level Racing Nashville 200. You're watching RaceSpotTV and round 6 of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. The run to the checkered flag coming up next.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
RaceSpotTV and coverage of Round 6 in the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. We're live in the Music City for the next level racing Nashville 200 in what has already been a crazy race with big championship implications. Alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined by Justin Prince. And Justin, past the halfway point of this race, one driver has led every single lap. Phil Krause looks to win 4 in a row to kick off 2022.
He's been controlling the tempo with the clean air all race long. He's controlled the start to the restarts with precision. It's been difficult to keep up with car 19. But here's the thing, when it comes to this racetrack, the main trend has been attrition, and more attrition. Off turn 4, plenty of drivers have bidden the course, that is, the exit into the tri-oval. This is not an easy night. This has not been an easy night for drivers to handle themselves. This will not likely get easier as this race goes on and the strategies unfold, with many of the drivers in the pack going to have to think about pit stops here soon.
One thing to note, though, of course, is that we have seen it settle down out of turn 4 somewhat, as Tony Hsiao and Joshua Chin on the entry to turn 3 are fighting side by side. We got those tire strategies coming into play, working lap 46 for many of the drivers that didn't come down pit lane through the last cycle of pit stops. Alex Guillon and Andrew Marquez are 2 of those cars. The first car that has pitted is Mitchell Riggs, who, after being involved in that contact that saw the caution fly for the second time today, already back up to 13th position.
Well, part of that has been because around this grouping of cars you're at the moment on screen, it's been a powder keg of battles because they've nearly bumped and banged each other several times in this grouping. Drivers such as Jason Brophy have tried 3 wide a couple times. It has been dicey, to say the very least. It has been nerve-wracking to look at, even with how close some of the drivers have been making contact down the backstretch.
So 89 laps about to be in the books. There we go. Phil Krause crosses the line as Kite Bomber's back and Mitchell Riggs, the 2 Ascari Autosports teammates, swap around up in front. Can make it from here. If you pit, it would take some mighty fuel saving. That's the word that we got. To give you some numbers, some hard numbers, it's a 60-lap fuel tank with the slight reduction that we've got for these races. So in terms of gallons, because I'm a liters person, unfortunately, that's about 15 and a bit gallons in the tank. We're looking at, for a 48-lap run, 1.23 liters a lap, 4.08 miles per gallon. To go 60 laps, you need 0.98 liters per lap, or 5.1 miles per gallon. That is not an insignificant chunk of change there, JP.
That's a lot of fuel mileage you'll have to try and save. A lot of fuel, I should say, in the tank in of itself, that you really have to try and maximize how you have the fuel settings, as well as how you try and do that saving, because it's very difficult in some cases to do that fuel saving. You need to be smart with it, and for some, they might not be even in the prime position to try and save, because as we've seen in some races, drivers have tried to save by bleeding the top of the very start of the run when it comes to this Dallara IR18, and it hasn't worked. In other cases, it has worked. It's a case-to-case basis, and that's the tough thing. It comes down to the driver's skill to do so.
Alexander Van der Sant's recovery sees him get past Jason Galvin in that 42. Galvin will have a fight back down low. Last time Galvin was in HyperX victory lane, Phoenix last year. There's been a debate going on in our YouTube chat as to whether this is a short, and let me make sure I've got this right, because I think this is a good way of putting it. Is it a long short track or a short long track? That's the debate that's been going on. Do let us know what you think. Which way do we think about it? The configuration here, of course, in terms of the aerodynamics, more like a speedway, but maybe it would, if we threw the short oval package here, a bit more downforce, a bit more grip, how would that race us? Now in front of Ron Hacker and AJ Musselman, Joshua Chin inside of Alex Guillon. Chin from the tail of the field up to 18th position.
Chin's had a horrific day, to say the very least, in that private label Team Hype machine. For much of the race, Chin had been boxed in, it seems, stuck in 30th place. Then the caution started to help him a little bit to gain some of the spots. He's been decent in the middle run. This is the best he's been position-wise all night. This is not what we usually expect to see from Joshua Chin. We usually expect him in this situation to slowly, methodically make his way ahead. He hasn't done that, as some of these drivers in particular he's had to fight. Well, they've been really not wanting to be passed.
No, Tony Showen doesn't want to be passed by Jason Galvin. It's a momentum race right now. We're not talking about swings and roundabouts. We're talking more just who's going to find that right line. In some ways, it is racing very much like a speedway race on the stock car side of things. Which lane are you in at the right time? Where do you find those clean pockets of air? As the muscle man trying to defend from Alex Guyon around the outside in that Raven Lavoie Motorsports machine.
Yes, indeed, a little dicey still in Mondstadt. Trying to think things out smartly, though, when it comes to how these cars have been trying to fare out. There's been near contact amongst them a couple times with how dicey it's been. Guyon, good on the short run in terms of positioning, but he's been falling off. In fact, he's the last of the drivers who did not come into pit last caution, should say. And right now, he's falling back and then some. In fact, a lot of the drivers who stayed out the previous caution, that tire were really starting to pop up a bit here.
Adam Blocker onto pit lane, so he should be able to make it from here to the end and salvage some points after a technical issue dropped him out of the race. Phil Krause is coming, and coming on fast in this challenge for not just the championship, but for the consecutive win record. We mentioned it at the start. Phil Krause currently out-blockering Adam Blocker. 5 wins in a row last year for Adam Blocker is a Lionheart record to start this year off. Phil Krause, 3 wins in a row coming into this one, has already finished inside the podium in all 5 of our races. Pit stops underway. Caleb Bensie and Alexis Newsom, the first cars to blink.
Second and third spot in particular, and that makes it really intriguing. Can they make it 50 laps? That's going to be the major telling sign. The drivers, even with all the pace laps and some of the craziness that happened during that last sequence of cautions or two, 59 laps, the furthest they can go in that stint. Bombers back amongst those coming in this time around. Also coming in, the race leader in Krause, who had a sizable advantage. Will this work out for him, especially since he has drivers coming out of the boxes around him?
First lap's not led by the number 19 machine as he slow rolls it down into the box. Got to execute for what should be the final pit stop today, cautions aside. Matt Taylor going to come down to pit, gives the lead over to Michael O'Brien. Nice tidy spot from Phil Krause as he rolls himself off a pit lane. Now, with the undercut being important, have those cars that box been able to close? The most significant, of course, is Alexis Newsom, already out of turn 2. It's going to be close, but Krause in front.
Krause still with that sizable advantage. Joshua Chinamonsto's really trying to stretch it. Michael O'Brien is the only driver who stayed out of the last caution flag, who has sizable track position, who has stayed out in the sequence. Everybody else hit the previous caution, and this is now the major discussion thought. Do you try and go as far as you can on the tank and have that tire difference and try and reel them back in? Do you split up the middle? Do you try and counter? How do you play this? That's the major thought as we see some more drivers in and out.
It's Matt Taylor merging back out onto track, getting up to speed as O'Brien will pit this time around. Leaves Mitchell Riggs, Andrew Marquez, Josh Chin, Alexander Van der Sat, and now AJ Musselman as the cars that are in the lead. Of course, they are yet to box. They're working lap 34. And if I was them, I'd consider boxing in about 5 laps time, JP. Get those tires to around the 40 lap margin, then pit with 40 to go. Keeps your tires just a little bit more fresh.
That was originally my thought here too, especially with some of the drivers track positioning wise and how much they're going to be losing time in turn. The fresh tires for reference right now. Some of the drivers turning 23 5s currently out of the boxes, 24 2s to 24 5s for those who are still staying out on the 30 plus lap old tires here. So you have to think about how this could play out. By the way, Mitchell Riggs is the best of those who are trying this. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Marquez here.
Although about half a second slower than Phil Krause last time by. These cars are in the danger zone. We should point that out. Phil Krause is a lap down, as is every other car that boxed this most recent cycle of pit stops. If the caution flew now, it would really damage their chances of walking into HyperX victory lane. Alexander Van der Sat has given up, I think, some track position to try and save some fuel, save some tires as well. We'll see how things shake out. They should box, I think, in the next couple of laps. Not much fighting going on at the front of those cars that have already boxed. The big fight is between the Retro Series title protagonists last year. It's Aaron Morgan, Matt Taylor squabbling once more.
See some of them in particular still trying to run the very top line. Taylor amongst those who have been very close to the wall the past couple laps. trying to take advantage of those struggling a little bit, like Joe Branch. Still inside the top 10 amongst the stretching out strategy. Taylor, he's in a very solid spot. I will give him credit because amongst those who have pit so far, he is 6th in terms of that strategy choice.
I think Robert Malechka has called it a day. I can confirm he had some hardware difficulties and was able to get it reset, but 14 laps down has decided it's not worth fighting. The next car in front of him, 8 laps adrift. Aaron Morgan getting past that lap traffic gives him some separation from Matt Taylor for the time being. Mitchell Riggs continues to lead, but now last time around was 2/10 off the pace compared to Andrew Marquez. And the difficult thing for Riggs is going to be in that 09 machine, JP, that he's not got the benefit of clean air anymore. He's got some traffic that's in front of him and trying to work around. Phil Krause has already got his lap back. Next in line will be Alexis Newsom.
Not as close compared to some drivers have really had to deal with. It's, if anything, a small whiff of it at this point. I'm not panicking too much if I'm Mitchell Riggs, but here's the thing. If there's a caution flag, it absolutely puts him in a great prime spot here, and that's, I think, especially with how his luck's been this race and his team's luck has been all season, that might have to be the play for a couple of those cars. As we take a look at the Hornet's Nest of cars still trying to cycle through, Rigney amongst those. He's trying to get by Tyler Graf, Chris Lanini, who are also on the old rubber.
All right, Rigney has boxed. He'll try and get past Tyler Graf, and then Chris Lanini as AJ Musselman is coming down onto the pit lane for the final time today. So with 37 to go, he'll roll back out onto track. Still waiting for the rest of the cars. I have to assume maybe what they're just waiting for now, JP, is potentially a caution, because otherwise I would have thought they'd want to come down and pit. The tire differential, we talked about how difficult it is to pass here today. It's not significant enough that with the margin that they're going to have if they box at the end of the stint, they'd be able to rock it around. They'd need some help, for sure.
Here's the tough thing, too. You have to strategize as a driver, too, even if you have that hope of that it might go green. You have to think about that big picture-wise as a competitor, because you can't really 100% guarantee if there is going to be one in this series, keep in mind. So you need to be able to think about it long-term picture. Those gambles, yes, have worked out a lot for some Arjuna, as we've seen throughout the season. However, you can't necessarily bank on it, especially with how crazy this race has been at times, all throughout the mid-pack in particular, with some of the traffic management, as we take a look at Jason Brophy amongst those trying to stretch it.
Of course, Jason Brophy, one of those cars that was caught out by the pit exit being closed when he cycled down to pit lane during a caution. Up to 6 for the time being, but has lost track of the other car that he was with in that cycle. Alexander Van der Sande is about, 4 seconds in front, and now Brophy's got a face full of dirty air. Matt Taylor has sneaked on past. Mitchell Riggs is being caught by Andrew Marquez, I think backing down the pace, just trying to eke out the momentum on this run for as long as he can, but it's settling into a rhythm as we work our way towards those final pit stops for the cars that are yet to pit. Cars first through 11th out on track. Of course, we're in the Music City, and when NASCAR used to come and race here, they had an interesting trophy. Guitars, of course, Gibson Guitars. Gibson being founded here in Nashville, founded in Michigan, but headquartered in Nashville for the last, 30-odd years, 40-odd years, since mid-1980s, if I remember correctly. Rather delightful little trophy, if you ask me. You've got the Miles the Monster if you win at Dover, for example, the other sort of facility that JP has been referencing today. But at least for me as a guitar head, I would very much prefer to win a guitar. Although, A, I wouldn't treat it like Kyle Busch would treat it, no matter how much you want to claim that he was just trying to get a piece of the guitar for every single member of his crew. But B, I'm also more partial to other guitar manufacturers, of which there are plenty. Hornet's Nest, talked about it earlier. Ryan Otis sees in front of him Jay Brandt, behind him Michael O'Brien.
And as these cars continue to fight it on out here, the intriguing mark has been here too. Riggs has been caught up in a lot of dirty air. That's been costing him a lot of time. Some of the air drivers really struggling to settle on down in said packs right now. Gonna be where you have to watch. Joshua Chin just came into pit, and he overran the access road and cut into the grass.
Now, will he have a penalty? I think he's gotten away with it. Up on the jacks he's going to go. We'll watch the pit stop time for The private label Team Hype number 93 machine missed the last couple of rounds of the championship, drops and rolls. 8.3 seconds, no harm, no foul.
I believe this is a track where, yes, the access road is there, but I'm not sure if the sim itself, Arjuna, will penalize you if you don't use it. So that may be something that has to be looked towards as another one comes in, Marquez. So expect more coming in. Larkamp, Branch, Galvin might be amongst those thinking about it soon.
It might be Race Control that decides to ding him. Of course, Stewart's here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Let's have a look at what happened to him as Marquez is in the box. There you can see just overshoots it a little bit too hard on the entry into turn 3, and at least gathers it up in time to roll the car down onto the pit lane. Marquez is going to roll off. And where is he going to emerge? That's the interesting thing to me. Remember, Riggs was about 2 seconds in front. Marquez, at best, I think, is going to emerge behind Andrew Kinsella. The tire delta, about 20 laps between those pitting now and those who have been out there for a while.
Can they gain all the time back is the major question I think a lot of people have. Mitchell Riggs indicating he's coming in. Galvin nearly just smacked the wall down. Here's a look at the leader, though, who's coming on in. He stretched it to under 30 to go. Will this work out for Riggs with this gamble?
Nice and tidy on the entry this time around. Look at him swing out wide. That's crucial. Locking up the tires, not so good. But, of course, those rubber... Oh, those tires not going to matter. Alexander Van der Sat has looped it on pit entry. The 96 with more pit stop struggles. Spins it around. But the 96 car goes back in the running order.
You have one driver who takes it nice and gently, has the lockup, yes, trying to get right to the commitment cone. Then you have the other who has the same type of apex, and then just forgets to hit the brake, cuts into the grass, and that snaps him around. He was going to be caught spinning regardless there if he wasn't able to lock it down there. Massive mistake from Van der Sat, and his bad race continues on. He did avoid the penalty in the pit lane, though, as the bright side, because he spun it.
Phil Krause has got it in front of Tyler Graf, a car yet to come down pit lane. That tells you all that you need to know. It was a gamble to come down and pit. Might not be a gamble that works the way that those cars were expecting. Jason Brophy, the next car to roll himself down onto pit lane, a driver that's had his own fair share of pit road mistakes, this time nice and tidy. The number 88 Grello machine, I'll concede that it's Grello, at least for the time being, because at least he's managed to enter pit lane correctly this time by. See where he cycles out in a day that was obviously looking good for the private label Team Hype. Still looks good compared to what it could have been, because Kinsella, Van der Sat, Block are all struggling in the points, but not ideal, we'll put it that way. Krause now up to second, just Joe Branch left to pit.
Absolutely. By the way, Chris Fowler has popped a motor, I think, just now in his pit stall. Meatball flag, he had jumped out of the car and then heard the engine pop, so something's happened to Fowler. We're down to 33 cars running on circuit. Right now, great positioning when it comes to Krause. About to cycle to the lead because Joe Branch is now in.
I think Chris Fowler had a pit penalty or something, because he had pit and then come straight back in before that motor expired. So we'll try and get word, but I suspect there was pit road infringement that we might have missed for the car. That does say cursed on the side. Was it self-inflicted? We'll have to wait and see. 3 seconds, the advantage at the front of the field. Phil Krause is 21 laps away from making it 4 wins on the bounce.
At about the same time, a few laps ago, it looks like Much to the Third also had a meatball flag pop out. So engines for some of the drivers who had to get massive repairs in some cases, going away. But for Krause, he gained 2 seconds throughout that pit cycle over Newsom and Bensi. Back 3 seconds separate those positions per piece right now. 20 to go. Krause just needs to stay out of trouble here.
Some lap traffic, but it shouldn't be too much of a factor by virtue of that mistake. Alexander Van der Sat has dropped off the leading lap, but in the trails of Phil Krause, not far behind. The delta on tires, 24 laps between the two of them. Van der Sat wants to get on pass and make sure he's in a position to stay on the lead lap if the caution were to come back out. Matt Taylor, the MadWorks Motorsports teammate to Chris Fowler, runs in 6th. Again, still fighting with Aaron Morgan.
That's been a solid fight so far, or will likely pick up even more so. He has Hero on the side of his car for reference. The HyperX on board. He's been quicker than Morgan for the past little while, a 10th of a second last time, a couple of hundredths the past 5 laps. Just needs to set this up right. There's plenty of traffic ahead with Galvin, Lanini, many others feeding aero wash. and in particular Connor Harrington letting by some of this traffic, and drivers like Luis Gonzalez Nunez also wanting to get by, who are on very fresh tires here.
Box 4 laps ago, did that 14 Sim Race 24/7 car, so you can see the urgency from the man that now lives in Canada. Barrett Rolfe, well, I'm not sure what happened to him. 44 seconds on the box last time around. I think he might have had his own bit of drama. We look at his teammate, though, Kite Bomber's back, who's fighting with Andrew Marquez, the New York native, down on the low line.
Very high on the apex there, a little bit of a later arc for a moment. That line just has not really too much worked, it seems. The very, very top line in 3 and 4. It has in 1 and 2 at times, though, to get that run down the backstretch. Looking like Bomber's back, just trying to find anything he can clean air-wise to find a way forward. The problem is, he's lost about 4 car lengths for this entire paragraph.
The driver to watch is Mitchell Riggs. 9-lap-old tires, 20 laps better than everyone in front of him. 14.5 seconds back from the race lead with 16 laps to go. We're not really thinking about if he can win this race. We're more thinking about how high can he climb when all things are said and done. 5th position, only 5 seconds in front of him, and they're fighting up the road. Jay Brandt, Michael O'Brien. Brandt almost up into the wall.
Heavy fighting it for 8th position right now. Drivers like Riggs, who are closing on into this, need to be smart. They need to keep their eyes open with how tight they're racing. O'Brien really wants to avoid what's on the side of his car, and Tyler Graff needs to be careful as the lap car in all of this.
Yep, he doesn't want to crash, that's for sure. Race lead, by the way, has come down. It is now, 1.8 seconds about there? Traffic's playing a factor. The traffic will give, the traffic will take. And the traffic that Phil Krause has just had to work past will now be consideration for your 2021 Lionheart Speedway Series champion. 13 laps to go here in our debut race at the Nashville Super Speedway. I mentioned it earlier, it's not the only time we're coming here in 2022 for Lionheart competition. The Retro Series will come here at the start of June. That's going to be an interesting race to see as well. And then the Speedway Series at the end of June. So still 2 more races to look forward to if you're a fan of this track here in Tennessee.
Really curious how the Retro Series will race here because, well, there's not a historical reference to a Lotus 79 driving at a racetrack that opened a couple decades ago. So I think that race will be a pretty wild one in some circumstances. But it's having the chance where, for drivers in terms of this traffic, it could be very tricky if you're Philip Krause. If he reaches a big gaggle of cars and Newsom can quickly get by some cars to counter, it falls back in her direction. If Krause gets by quickly, then it goes back into Krause's hands, especially coming up to 10 laps to go. And you also have to factor in the possibility of the fuel concerns, especially with some of those drivers trying to stretch to 50 laps. First driver in regard to those who had pit with a different strategy, Mitchell Riggs, 9th position, 14 seconds back.
He's closed a second on Aaron Morgan and even Connor Harrington as well. So pace continues to tumble for him, or rather to be steady. 23.7 for him, a 24.3 for Aaron Morgan. Quite considerable. Alexis Newsom has slid backwards again, now 2.8 back from Phil Krause. So the traffic has played a major factor. 9 to go. Krause continues to putter around. He's in control of his destiny here.
And he's really letting this league grow itself with Newsom stuck in a heavy gaggle of lap cars right now. Krause getting a massive amount of buffer time. Question will be, is he good to go? Well, looking comfortable based on his pace. What we've seen from some of the drivers in terms of how some of them have stretched it. How those fuel modes will be utilized. Newsom finally gets clear of some of the cars, although some more want to get by her.
Mitchell Riggs now disposes of not just Michael O'Brien, but Ryan Otis as well. Hasn't closed as much on Connor Harrington, Aaron Morgan as he would have liked. Still 1.5 back with 8 laps to go, but don't count him out of potentially even getting back up into 4th position. What a charge that would be. Jason Brophy fighting now with Andrew Kinsella. Kinsella gets a big old wobble through turn 2, blocks the momentum of Brophy, who takes it 3 wide with Barrett Rolfe and the Ascari Autosport machine. Down low, fresh tires, Jason Brophy will get on through. That's crucial when it comes to the team championship.
Brophy's been extremely aggressive in some of these battles after that penalty before. Brophy really wants to get clear, and that fresh tire grip advantage really powering itself ahead. For the private label team Hype Machine coming up to 6 laps to go. Still a bit behind the 8 ball after that trouble for Brophy. But now it's just a matter of close it out, get as many points as you can here, run away if you're Brophy.
Mitchell Riggs now 1 second back from those in front as we jump on board with the 09 and the Next Level Racing onboard camera. Look at the lines that he's taking. Look at how he's arcing through the corner, down the gear into 5th as he powers up and rolls off of the corner. Now 1 second back from Matt Taylor, half a second in front Aaron Morgan, and now a full 1.5 in front to Connor Harrington. 5 to go. The target has to be into the top 5.
Is it doable is the question. He needs this pace to continue and pass by the cars quickly. And here's something to consider, Arjuna, when it comes to Riggs in his season. 37th to start the year, 32nd, 23rd, 14th, 9th. His finishing positions. He's improved every single race. This would be a new career high, regardless if he can move himself ahead here from this spot, if he stays in 7th or to the top 5.
Let's give a shout out to Joshua Chin as well, who is up to 11th after getting an end of line, or having to serve, I should say, an end of line penalty at the start of this race. Might still even be looking at a top 10, not far behind Andrew Marquez, although both cars very similar in terms of the tire life. Running out of time is Mitchell Riggs. Still 8/10ths back as out of turn 4 comes Philip Kraus, white flag in hand for Barney the Flagman. Been a dominant performance from that number 19 machine.
That'll be next time around, of course, Arjuna, as well as Barney gets ready to wave that. And Kraus, he'll just have to deal with a little bit of traffic ahead. He's been nice and clean. He's been growing the gap with Newsom, really stuck in that traffic. Now, just has to close it out coming to lap 150.
Alexander Van der Sat gets past Kite Bombers back. Those fresh tires working to try and recover some positions. But for Van der Sat, he would have been thinking what could have been if not for that mistake on pit lane. Maybe if he had gone for a slightly different strategy. The inaugural trip for the Lionheart Racing Series to the Music City has been an eventful one. 200 miles at the Nashville Super Speedway has seen 3 cautions, but plenty of drama. Emerging victorious and dominant today is Phil Kraus. 4 victories in a row, 5 victories this season. Can anyone stop Phil Kraus on his road to becoming a Lionheart IndyCar Series champion? He wins the Next Level Racing Nashville 200.
Absolutely dominant. Kraus has set the series on fire when it comes to its consistency these past few weeks, and he is just 1 race away from tying the all-time wins in a row record with Adam Blocker from last season. Kraus, he's joining elite company. Only drivers to do 3 or more wins in a row now, him and Adam Blocker.
Championship gap will be extended. We'll have a different driver in 2nd place as well by virtue of both Van der Sat and Blocker's struggles throughout the course of this inaugural trip to the Music City. Phil Kraus is becoming a regular in HyperX Victory Lane. He gets ready to burn it down at the Nashville Super Speedway. Looks close.
He's out of fuel.
That looks close on fuel. Don't think we're going to get that. Here we go. There are at least some burnouts, if not some donuts. He'll do the reverse victory lap to cap off a dominant display here today. Let's run you down through your SimRace 24/7 race results. Phil Kraus was 4 seconds clear of Alexis Newsom in the factory-backed machine. Newsom's best finish of the season. Maybe signs pointing upwards for her number 53. Caleb Benzie, take a bow. We've been talking and praising him. His first podium in his Lionheart IndyCar Series career, improves on his best 5th place finish at Long Beach to start this year off. Connor Harrington in 4th with the private label Team Hype, with Aaron Morgan through the top 5. Some redemption for that 24 car after damage for him multiple times 7 days ago. Matt Taylor, one of our big movers, 12 positions gained in that Madworks Motorsports number 8 machine, while Mitchell Riggs made the old tires, or new tires, excuse me, work well, but only up to 7th at the Ascari Autosport car. Ryan Otis, good day for him in 9th, with Andrew Marquez through the top 10. The hard charger goes to Joshua Chin, plus 28 after an end-of-line penalty. He works up into 11th on his return to the series. Jay Brandt behind him, Alexander Van der Sat ruining the mistakes, down in 13th position. Kite Bombers back, the 2nd of the Ascari Autosport machines, finishes in front of Jason Brophy, who had to serve that pit exit penalty that really put to bed any hopes of him working his way forward. He might be slightly disappointed, though, to still finish behind Alexander Van der Sant, given the mistake that we saw from Van der Sant in pit lane. Mike Rigney 16th with Andrew Kinsella, his final race before getting married, down in 17th, but plus 14. Another struggle in qualifying, works his way up in the field. Tony Shaw in 18th with Brian Beard behind him in 19th through the top 20. We see AJ Musselman in the number 54 car for the second of the factory-packed machines. Joe Branch 21st, down a lap in the field with Ron Hacker, Alex Guyon, Stefan Larkamp, Chris Lanini, Jason Galvin, Matt Houston, and Tyler Graff all stranded, one lap adrift. Behind them, Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Paul Jenkins making it to the checkered flag, along with Barrett Rolfe, Adam Blocker, and Lionel Kalisto. Retiring from this race, Chris Fowler, Robert Malechka, and Adriano Pinheiro, the two coming together. Malechka trying to recover, but still ends up in 35th position. Adam Frazier, Matthias Kraus, Brian Carey, Dustin Wardlow complete the graveyard of cars here at the Nashville Super Speedway. What a race it was, our first here in the Music City. That leads us nicely then into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. For the 5th time this year, we head down to HyperX Victory Lane where we find Philip Kraus. Phil, putting it on pole position was the important thing today. How easy was it, or how difficult was it, to work your way through the lap traffic and keep in control?
Oh yeah, gotta be careful. I might need to build a house here at this rate. Like, geez, what a start to the season first off. But yeah, it was mostly managing fuel number, managing gap, and it was pretty straightforward most of that race. There was a really messy yellow where the sim wasn't waving by lap cars, and that honestly, that really saved my fuel number, because without that in the lead, I wasn't gonna be able to make it to the end on fuel. I was gonna have to make an extra stop or just let Alexis by. But yeah, it was another really good race for our private label team Hypatica car, and yeah, I just wish it was a little bit hotter, because it looked like that last yellow where a lot of people split strategy in pit, they just couldn't make any ground. It looked like it was a little bit better the final like 25 laps or so, but yeah, I just wish it was a bit hotter so you guys could have seen some better racing today.
So, first race here, what are your thoughts? You want to come back here in 2023, or a one and done in your opinion?
If it's a little bit warmer, like 15 degrees, I'd give it another shot, but if it's that temperature, I'd probably say one and done personally, but yeah.
Well, and next time we go to Watkins Glen. You're looking to tie Adam Blocker's consecutive win streak of 5 in a row. What are you thinking about that? You do get an off week. I'm sure that's somewhat needed. It's been a frenetic start to the year, and of course we're heading into the biggest event of the year, the iRacing Indy 500.
Yeah, it'll be really nice to have that off week. Gives everyone at Private Label Team Hype and Team Talent time to prepare for Indy, because we've kind of been slacking on that recently, but we're going to get our heads down, work on that, and hopefully get a good quality in there. But yeah, definitely the off week's great, and I'm really looking forward to Watkins Glen. It should be interesting with the updated scan. Those curves through the bus stop are going to be lethal if the P2 is anything to go by. I haven't raced here in the IR18, but yeah, it should be really interesting, really fun race, and I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations, Phil. The momentum rolls on. From HyperX Victory Lane to Alexis Newsom, second on the track and the best finish of the season for that number 53 machine. Alexis, again, qualifying was important, but the start was even more important. Jumping Caleb Bensi. What happened there? How were you able to get past the 29 car?
Oh yeah, I just got a little bit better of a start. It's always hard to start on the outside of the front row. Time it right, so able to get underneath him, and that was basically all the action the entire race.
Well, Phil did mention that if not for that delayed yellow, or the inadvertent not start that we had, he was a bit worried about the fuel number. Were you ever concerned about the fuel mileage there? Were you ever concerned about alternate strategies?
Not particularly. I could do like 55 laps pretty easily. Like, it was pretty much the same speed to run in map 3 than 1. So I wasn't too worried about it, even if we went green at the normal time.
Well, a good now bounce back after 2 disappointing races. Of course, you finished second at Kentucky. Now it's another second place as well. Hopefully the momentum continues to build. Alexis, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Watkins Glen.
Thanks. Good night.
Alexis Newsom, second place for the second time this season. Hopefully some momentum starting to build for the number 53 factory-backed machine. Now, for the first time in his career, Caleb Bensy's on the Lionheart IndyCar Series podium. Caleb, qualifying went great. What happened after that?
Just maintaining, really. Yeah, it's really tough out there with the dirty air and just the way the track's kind of, the surface and all that. So I was just trying to maintain position. It was kind of weird timed cautions there. Try to save a little bit of fuel here and there, and yeah, it was pretty tricky there coming out in the middle of all the people who pit earlier. So it was just really about keeping the car safe. It was pretty sketchy. So keeping the car safe, keeping track position, hitting fuel numbers. So lots to keep track of, but awesome to get a P3. Wasn't really expecting that coming in, so really happy with that.
It's been a good start to the season, Caleb. I mean, inside of the top 15 in all of the races leading up to this one, 5th at Long Beach, 7th at Pocono, that double points race. You must be pretty delighted with how the step up to the IndyCar Series has been going for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, didn't have a ton of expectations coming in here. Just, race by race, not really looking at any big championship, top 10. Like, just really wanted to come in, just perform well at certain tracks you feel comfortable with. But overall, yeah, this is definitely, honestly exceeded some expectations, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, just hoping to keep the momentum going, and it's obviously a very, very long season. So, in terms of debut rookie, I guess really couldn't ask for too much more. So, just really want to try to keep it up if I can.
Yeah, the difficulty when it comes to the Rookie of the Year championship is, of course, Phil Krause is classified as a rookie, so it does make things a little bit difficult there. Talk to us, though, about, stepping up from Speedway. This is a series where you have to master so many different types of tracks, whether it's ovals, road courses, and the sub-disciplines amongst the two of them as well. Where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you expect to see the most improvement over the course of the year?
Yeah, thankfully with some other leagues and stuff, I've had quite a bit of experience in both, but yeah, just the intensity of Speedway, and I mean, really helps you prepare for stuff like this, tracks like this. Obviously the faster ovals, and you just gotta be so technical and so precise. And obviously that stuff definitely carries over a lot. But road courses feel pretty good too. But definitely, I know there's some room to improve there. But don't feel like too far off. So just gotta find a little more speed here and there. But overall, feeling pretty good with the car, and like I said, just really hoping to keep the momentum going, because this has definitely been a pretty good start.
Well, 2 weeks from now, Watkins Glen, we'll see if that momentum rolls on. Congratulations on the first podium of your career, Caleb.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Obviously, got a few people to thank real quick, but yeah, obviously Team Race First Matt, I mean, get me in the series and everything. And got the Monday Night broadcast and Race First as well. 40 Racewear, new SM gear out there. Echo Blade on Steam, new video game that's out. Fawn and Fanny, just custom body care, and honestly, a lot of family and friends I know watching tonight, so big shout out to them, as always supporting and following along. So yeah, pretty awesome night. And thanks to you guys as well for a great broadcast.
Caleb Bensey rounds out our podium interviews in our first trip to the Nashville Super Speedway. I think the one thing that I'm seeing in the paddock right now is some frustration. I think Phil mentioned it, Justin, the cooler weather conditions that we saw made it a little bit more difficult for worn tires to slow the car down and to allow those alternate strategies to be an effective tool. But still, it was a fun, challenging race, and that's what we do like about the diversity of IndyCar racing, American open wheel racing, is that diversity.
Absolutely, and I think this racetrack brought a lot more intrigue than some may have even expected, even when you factor in the weather side, because you still had a lot of fair chances for some passes to be done. You had to be feisty to get some of those jobs done. It was difficult to make passes in contrast, though, around the circuit. You had to be smart with how you prepared yourself around the circuit. You had to be smart with how you managed the traffic. All that came to play in so many different ways, and I think even seeing some of the fans watching along here tonight, and seeing some of the folks who know the history of this racetrack, especially the fans and the drivers, such as the Laziers, such as the Scott Dixon fans of the world. This is a racetrack that breeds lots of intrigue for a reason.
Well, and the next time we're racing, Phil Kraus alluded to it. We go to the updated configuration of Watkins Glen International. A trip to upstate New York 2 weeks from now. Same time, same place. Join us for round 7. The Butt Kicker Grand Prix of Watkins Glen. Going to be fascinating to see how the IndyCars take to this updated surface, this updated curb, and some of the new track limits as well. We should see a fantastic race. And if Silverstone's anything to go by, you see the first sector here, how fast, how flowing it is. If we saw chaos at Silverstone, we'll likely see chaos once again when we head to round 7 of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. That wraps things up, though, from the Nashville Superspeedway. Before we say goodbye, we'd like to thank those that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And it's not just them, but so many more that make this happen. To learn more about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series, or to learn about the 3 competitions the Lionheart sanctioning body puts on, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com for more information. And do remember to stay involved on social media by following Lionheart to stay connected with the comings and goings of the virtual paddock. Next time we're racing, it will be at Watkins Glen International. 2 weeks from now, May 18th, 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. Join us for the Butt Kicker Grand Prix of Watkins Glen. Next time Lionheart is in action, though, is much, much sooner. 9th of May, the Speedway Series returns for round 6 as it heads to the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. For now, though, we bid you farewell. Can anyone stop Phil Kraus? He's on a roll, he's got the groove, he's in the pocket, he's shredded down here at the Nashville Superspeedway. He's now 4 wins in a row, by far the man to beat in the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, though, for my co-commentator Justin Prince, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, signing off from the Music City. We've had a ball, but next time we go racing, it will be at the cool and fast and flowing Watkins Glen International. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your racing week.